Morning mist hung over the streets of Greenwich. As I opened the heavy wooden door of Brown's, I was greeted by a fragrance that hadn't changed in decades. The aroma of coffee, lingering notes of yesterday's roast beef, and the weight of history rising from the wooden floors. An old chandelier cast a soft light throughout the dimly lit restaurant. "Good morning, Stella," said Zane, the head chef, peering out from the kitchen in his crisp white chef's coat as always. With powder sprinkled in his graying hair, he maintained his impeccable appearance. He'd been wielding his culinary skills in this place since before I was born. "Good morning, Zane. How's the preparation for today's prime rib?" "I prepared it last night. We're fully booked tonight, including the Rothschild family's anniversary dinner." I nodded with satisfaction. Brown's, which my grandfather opened in 1962, is known as the most prestigious restaurant in Greenwich, Connecticut. Anniversaries, birthdays, important business meetings, people visit this restaurant for all of life's milestone moments. It had become a tradition in this town. Elegant conversations and laughter always fill the dining room surrounded by rich dark wood panels. Silver cutlery catches the light elegantly on pristine white tablecloths. The wine cellar houses exquisite vintages carefully cultivated since my grandfather's time. Entering the kitchen, I found the staff quietly engaged in morning preparations. Fresh ingredients were being delivered, with the sounds of chopping vegetables and washing pots creating a pleasant rhythm. We source our Maine lobster directly from local fishermen, and vegetables arrive fresh from nearby farms every morning. "Stella, please check the new wine list," said Louis the sommelier, bringing over a carefully selected wine list. He too was one of those who had helped create the history of this restaurant. Suddenly, I remembered my wedding day 8 years ago. When we held our reception at this restaurant, Buzz took my hand with the brightest smile. Back then, he was an investment banker at J.P. Morgan, an enviable groom. Dressed in a custom Brooks Brothers suit, he behaved like the perfect gentleman. "I want to honor your family tradition," he said, offering to participate in the restaurant management. My father happily transferred 51% of the shares to him as a symbol of our family business. But looking back now, perhaps there was something else lurking in his gaze back then. Ambition, or perhaps calculation. 6 months ago, everything began to change from the day we hired a new waitress. Kristen Brooks. Flashy blonde hair, always wearing slightly too short skirts. Carrying a Michael Kors bag on her shoulder, proudly showing off her Coach wallet. When she entered the restaurant, the atmosphere changed. At first, the changes were subtle. Buzz staying late at night. Increasingly frequent business trips. Rumors beginning to circulate among the staff. And those overly intimate glances exchanged across the counter. Louis the sommelier approached me with a worried expression. "Last night, after closing." He trailed off, but I understood. He had witnessed the two of them meeting secretly in the wine cellar. Among my grandfather's precious wine collection, they had spent their secret time together. I smiled quietly. "Thank you, Louis. Don't worry." With those words, I returned to the accounting office. Outside, rain had quietly begun to fall. Wet cobblestones dimly reflected the evening light. Listening to the rain, I contemplated my next move. Saturday morning. In a white colonial-style house in Greenwich's upscale residential area, Buzz was silently packing clothes into his suitcase. Roses in the garden were being battered by rain, their red petals beginning to scatter. Flowers I had lovingly planted last spring. He carefully placed his Brooks Brothers suits in garment bags and wrapped his Italian leather shoes in special cloth pouches. His Rolex watch, Mont Blanc fountain pen, and wedding ring. Each of these actions coldly pierced the reality that our 8-year marriage was coming to an end. Our wedding photo sat atop the cabinet, a picture taken in Brown's main dining room. Buzz holding my hand, toasting with my grandfather's heirloom champagne glasses. That day, my father's eyes had glistened with joy. I leaned against the door of the second-floor study, watching my husband pack. In a navy dress with an elegant pearl necklace, I was behaving as if it were just an ordinary morning. But the atmosphere in this house was as heavy and cold as if frozen. Only the second hand of the wall clock kept marking time mercilessly. "Have you already signed the contract for the New York apartment?" My voice was deliberately kept calm. The perfume bottle on the dressing table sparkled in the morning light. It was a gift from him on our first Christmas. "Yes," Buzz answered without turning around. "It's on the top floor of the Upper East Side. Great view. Kristen will love it. Great view." At those words, I let out a small sigh. From this Greenwich house too, you can see Long Island Sound beyond the backyard. 8 years ago, when we were newly married, we enjoyed having breakfast on the terrace while admiring that view on holidays. The aroma of croissants specially made by Zane and freshly ground coffee. Now, it's all just a distant memory. Buzz's hands paused. The sound of him closing the zipper on his suitcase after placing his last tie inside echoed through the room. "Darling," I began quietly. "Did you give our restaurant to your mistress?" Buzz froze for a moment. Then he slowly turned toward me. His face now wore an arrogant smile, no longer needing to be concealed. "Yes, I did," Buzz laughed mockingly. "I wanted to destroy your precious family tradition. Every day, all that talk about the restaurant. Your grandfather this, tradition that. I was sick of it." I remained motionless, just staring at him. "It's too late now," Buzz continued triumphantly. "Everything's in her name. The shares, management rights, everything. Young and beautiful, she'll be running that high and mighty restaurant from now on. Don't you find that amusing?" I smiled quietly. "What are you smiling about?" "Congratulations. You've given her a wonderful gift." At those words, Buzz's expression clouded slightly. "What do you mean?" I tilted my head. "Nothing. I'm just celebrating your choice." The sound of rain grew stronger. Raindrops from the gray sky struck the window glass fiercely. "I decided this from the moment I got the shares from your father," Buzz said as he lifted his luggage. "That someday I would take this restaurant. Quitting investment banking, showing up at the restaurant every day, it was all for that purpose. It took 8 years. Until I met Kristen, I couldn't grasp the opportunity. She's the perfect partner I've been looking for. Young, beautiful, ambitious." I slowly walked to the study window. Rain-soaked trees in the garden swayed in the wind. "Yes. A perfect choice. I don't intend to apologize to you," Buzz began walking toward the entrance. "This is my life choice." The sound of his heavy suitcase being dragged echoed down the stairs. "Stella," Buzz turned back one last time. "It was a good life." "Yes," I answered, still looking out the window. "It was a very good life." The sound of the front door closing echoed. Then the car engine starting, tires crunching on the wet gravel. I quietly walked to the study desk. I took out a thick file from the drawer. This would serve as evidence for the revenge about to begin. My grandfather's old photograph looked at me from the desk. My grandfather standing with a proud smile on Brown's opening day. Next to him, my father in his younger days. The family history was packed into this single photograph. "Don't worry," I whispered to the photo. I'll protect this restaurant. The phone rang. The ringtone broke the silence. Hello, this is Stella. Head chef Zane's voice resonated. I confirmed he left. In a black Benz, with that woman. Thank you, Zane. All the staff are gathered. Everyone is waiting for your instructions. I understand. I'll be right there. Start preparing to open with a smile, just like always. Hanging up the phone, I fixed my hair in front of the mirror. Touched up my makeup and reapplied my lipstick. Created a perfect smile. From today, the curtain rises on a new act. I put the file in my bag and picked up my car keys. My steps toward the entrance were surprisingly light. Monday morning, the heavy doors of Brown's quietly opened. Kristen walked in wearing her newly purchased Christian Louboutin high heels. A Chanel tweed jacket with a slightly too short skirt. This outfit, hastily assembled from luxury boutiques, was clearly out of place in this historic restaurant. Good morning, Deborah, the veteran hostess, greeted her gently. Her back was straighter than usual. The pride of having worked in this place for over 20 years showed in her posture. Oh, Deborah, Kristen waved her hand dismissively. I'm the president from today. First, we need to change this interior. Let's make it more modern, more Instagram-worthy. Deborah's expression froze for a moment. Her husband had proposed to her under this restaurant's old chandelier. I was quietly watching from a corner of the kitchen. Beside me, Zane silently sharpened his knife, and only that sound cut through the tense atmosphere. First, let's revamp the menu, Kristen declared grandly. Prime rib is so outdated these days. We should offer more trendy options like molecular gastronomy. At that moment, Zane's hand stopped. His face, having protected this restaurant's flavors for 40 years, flushed with anger. Kristen noticed me. You're still here? We don't need you anymore. Pack your things and leave today. Yes, I understand, I smiled calmly. But before that, there's something you should see. I pulled out a thick file. Stacked bills, unpaid tax notices, collection letters from banks. Each piece represented the heavy reality inscribed in this restaurant. What is this? Kristen's voice trembled. Unpaid bills. Totaling $3 million, I explained slowly. Payments to suppliers, bank loan repayments, taxes. All of it becomes the new owner's responsibility. The blood drained from Kristen's face. Her lips trembled beneath her expensive makeup. She took out her cell phone. Buzz. Come right away. What is this? Shortly after, Buzz hurried in. His Brooks Brothers suit was already wrinkled in the morning, and his usually neat hairstyle was disheveled. What's the meaning of this, Stella? His voice was low, shaking with suppressed anger. There's nothing to explain, I answered calmly. This is reality. Running a restaurant isn't so sweet. Lies. Buzz shouted. There can't be such debt. The restaurant was thriving. Reservations were. On the surface, yes, I said quietly. But operating restrictions during the pandemic, maintaining premium ingredient supplies, employee salaries. And the renovation you needlessly initiated. Everything has accumulated as debt. Why didn't you tell us? Kristen said in a trembling voice. Did you ever ask? I looked straight at her. Did either of you ever check the restaurant's books? Attend management meetings? Talk to the employees? Silence fell. No cooking sounds could be heard from the kitchen. All staff were watching this scene. The suppliers will demand payment today, I continued matter-of-factly. The bank will start foreclosure on the collateral properties. The tax office will also contact you. I never heard about this. Kristen cried. Buzz, do something. Aren't you the president? I said sarcastically. Why don't you try your best as the young, beautiful, ambitious new manager? Buzz's phone began to ring. It was the bank. Then Kristen's smartphone. Calls from suppliers appeared one after another. Stella, Buzz gritted his teeth. You knew all along. Yes, I smiled. I've been preparing for this day since 8 years ago when you quit investment banking. Revenge? No, I shook my head. Just a business decision. Incompetent managers simply facing the consequences. Zane approached. Your reservation guests have arrived. Thank you, Zane. I slowly walked to the counter. Order slips were neatly arranged as always. Let's prepare to open, I said quietly. We have important guests coming to this restaurant. Outside, spring sunlight sparkled as a new day was about to begin. Next is a meeting with the Chase Manhattan Bank representative. Jane, the secretary, opened the conference room door. Reality piled up before Buzz and Kristen. This was already their 5th emergency meeting with banks today. Buzz's Brooks Brothers suit was now completely wrinkled. Half of Kristen's Chanel manicure had chipped off from her nail-biting habit. The new manager's outfit from luxury boutiques now seemed futile. The banker opened a thick file. We've completed the evaluation of the collateral properties. First, regarding the Greenwich real estate, liquidating the collateral would not recover even half the debt. For the remainder, your parents guarantee. My parents have nothing to do with this. Kristen shouted. This is all the restaurant's problem. You are the representative director, the banker stated coldly. You've already signed the joint guarantee for the debt. Kristen's face turned pale. The stack of documents she had excitedly signed last week. She hadn't read a single page. My iPhone vibrated. Checking the message, it was from Zane. Reporters were beginning to gather in front of the restaurant. Then a link to the local newspaper followed. On Instagram, comments condemning Kristen were flooding in. Just a week ago, her account had been full of admiration and praise. Now it was a storm of criticism. You made the contract on your own, Buzz yelled. I didn't. What? Kristen stood up. You promised. Luxury boutique bills, down payment for a new residence, a newly purchased luxury car. Everything was in her name. The conference room door opened again. This time, tax office investigators. 3 men in suits entered solemnly. We've confirmed serious violations regarding tax payments. The monotone voice echoed in the conference room. This also raises the possibility of deliberate tax evasion. Tax evasion. Buzz banged on the table. Stella, is this your doing? I resigned as accounting manager 3 months ago, I answered calmly. All documents were handed over to the new management. I never looked at any documents. Kristen's voice grew small. I'm sure you didn't, I slowly stood up. You had time to shop at luxury boutiques, but no time to check the business reality. In the hallway, people were lined up waiting for their turn in the next meeting. Suppliers, lending companies, tax accountants, bankruptcy trustees. Everything had been prepared for this day. "How can we?" Kristen said in a trembling voice. "Stop this?" "You can't stop it," I answered as I headed for the door. This is the reality of management. Leaving the conference room, Zane was waiting. "All staff have discussed it." "It's decided?" Zane nodded. "Everyone will submit their resignation. We cannot work under the new management. Our pride means more." Outside, camera flashes from reporters were flashing. Television station vans were arriving one after another in front of the store. I picked up my car keys. "Zane, let's go home." "What about the restaurant?" "It's not our restaurant anymore." The streets of Greenwich were bathed in dusk. In the rearview mirror, I could see the small figures of the two collapsing. Luxury car loans, apartment contract fees, boutique bills. And the restaurant's debt. Everything was crushing their lives. I gripped the steering wheel tightly. This wasn't revenge. Just a business outcome. Incompetent managers simply receiving their due consequences. 1 year later, in a quiet residential area in the outskirts of Boston, the doorbell of a small bakery cafe, Brown's Bakery, bathed in dappled sunlight, rang pleasantly. "Welcome," I smiled, greeting customers from behind the counter. My figure wrapped in a white apron radiated a gentle glow, different from my former designer brand outfits. "The muffins are ready," Zane's voice called from the kitchen. He had moved to Boston with me and helped establish this small shop. Many of our former staff had also begun new lives in this town. "Stella's croissants are becoming the talk of Greenwich," said Mary, a regular customer, showing me her smartphone screen. Photos of our shop lined her Instagram feed. On the counter, bathed in sunlight, sat apple pies made with my grandfather's cherished recipes. Next to them were new pastries developed with Zane. Tradition and innovation quietly harmonized in this small space. "Stella, did you see the newspaper?" Jane, who was preparing for opening, handed me the local paper. The article featured a photo of Buzz arrested in a cheap apartment in New Orleans. After bankruptcy, he was reportedly arrested for attempting a new investment fraud. His once refined expression was gone, leaving only the figure of an exhausted middle-aged man. Next to it was a small related article. Kristen was now reportedly running from debt collectors, fleeing from state to state. Her Instagram had been deleted 6 months ago, and she had completely disappeared from social media. She was last sighted at a cheap casino hotel in Las Vegas. Her luxury brand bags and watches would surely be displayed on pawnshop shelves by now. "I'm sorry," I addressed the staff working quietly, "for putting you all through that." "Don't be," Deborah shook her head. "We followed you by our own choice." "That's right," Zane looked up from the oven. "The soul of Brown's lives on here." Outside the window, young maple leaves swayed in the wind. Spring sunshine cast gentle shadows on the small cafe floor. My grandfather's old photograph decorated the counter. His smiling face from 1962, at the opening of the original Browns. Next to it was a new family photo. Our genuine smiles, working together in this shop. A small donation box sat near the register. Labeled Young Chef Support Fund, it collected customers' goodwill little by little each day. Zane approached. "The new trainee has arrived." In the kitchen, a young woman was nervously putting on an apron. In her eyes dwelled the same pure passion I once had. "Good morning," I smiled at her. "Let's start with the basics." Glancing outside the window, I saw a rainbow arching in the distant sky. 7 colors quietly shining in the sky after a spring rain. "Are you watching?" I whispered to my grandfather's photograph. "We're doing just fine." The old wind chime above the register played a gentle melody. A new day was about to begin. "Let's prepare to open," I said. All staff responded with smiles. In this small bakery cafe, we were beginning to create a new tradition. I lost a glamorous, luxurious restaurant. But what I gained in return was even more valuable. Honest work, trustworthy colleagues, and above all, genuine smiles. Outside, people passing by on the street paused at the warm light from within the shop. Today, too, meetings with new customers awaited us. "Welcome to Brown's Bakery." I opened the door with all my heart.